Good morning, Wise. Good morning. I am with you early this morning because, good morning. Y'all caught Coach C early. The Lord got me out of bed. Good morning. Y'all early too, I see. Okay. How are you? I have a session today, so I had to come on early today. So I had to get me some real hot tea. Fill myself up with buoyancy. Come on, Jesus. Come on. Represent for the people. I have to fill myself up. Good. Listen. We're going to ease on down this thing. See what it look like. And we'll see who else join in with us. If not, we're definitely keep this up for the replay. But I won't hold you long. I can't hold you long today. Since I got this session after this. Listen, happy self-care Saturday. I want to share with you my week. And I think yesterday was the hardest for me because I had to pack up my office at work. I had to pack up my office because we were moving to a new location. And it was hard. However, I do believe the Lord gave me this week as a way of saying, job well done. You finished your race here. You did what you're supposed to do. You executed. Now it's time for us to move forward, right? That office was part of one of the promises that God had made to me when my husband was in the hospital. And so it was bittersweet. It was bittersweet. That place, I had my own little, shut-in office and stuff. So it was real private, real intimate. It was one of those type of places. It was my sanctuary. It was my anointing room. I would take my oil and I would anoint my room. It was my prayer room. It was my dugout. It was my hideout. It was my home away from home. It was my privacy. It was my place of worship. Oh my God, I'm going to miss that more than anything. Even a girl yesterday asked me, she said, what are you going to do now about all your music? What are you going to do now about all your music and books and stuff? Where are you going to have room to put this stuff anywhere? And I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it, So it has been my place of worship. It has been my place of praise. It has been my place where I've met with God and I've talked with God and He have counseled me and I have counseled others and He have coached me and I have coached others and He has helped me and I have helped others. It has been that place where I have cried, where I received bad news. I received good news. It has been a place more than anything. When I got there, I couldn't understand my assignment at first. I didn't really know my assignment. Good morning. And then the Lord explained to me, like, this is the place that you will build your business. This is the place where you will build your business. And so that was the place where I built buoyancy. It was like, that's where buoyancy was started. That's how buoyancy came into place. And so it was bittersweet. It was bittersweet. And I shared on last week how, about the door and God saying, I said, I seen this vision and God saying, it's time to go. So for me, in the natural format, my office was that vision of, me like, it's time to move. Good morning. In the natural, it was like, it's time to move. It's time to move forward. But from a spiritual perspective, I felt like it was God's way of telling me, I'm giving you new provision. Like this is, it's time. Like we moving forward. Like, I gave you these 4 years to build your business. I gave you these 4 years. Good morning. I gave you these 4 years to build your business. I gave you these 4 years to build, and I gave you, this time to, to train and to, and to be, equipped for what I'm going to take you to next. Now, before I get to the spiritual side, I want to first say this. God has been revealing a lot of things to me, and it's almost like the things that he have told me, in the past, I am now starting to see those things come forward. It's like, yeah, God, I remember you had said that. I didn't know it was going to happen right now. Like, I didn't know it was actually getting ready to happen right now. And so what I'm seeing, and what I have seen a lot this week, was a lot of things that God has told me in that office, in that space. A lot of things that God has shared with me. A lot of things that I have journaled. A lot of things that I have written down. God shared and shared with me. It's like those things now are coming forward. And you have to understand that can be scary. It's like, wait, because you did say that, and now it's like, okay, this stuff is actually coming to pass, and it's coming a little bit quicker and faster than I was expecting it. So from like I said, from a spiritual perspective, I feel like God is, it's his way of telling me, it's time for new provision, and it's time for us to, move forward. It's time for you to actually walk into this season. It's time for you to go into your new place that I have, trained you for, And so that's why I titled today, new territory. Good morning. I titled today new territory, the unknown. Like, we don't know what's about to happen. Like, I mean, when I tell you, wives, I am right there with you. You don't know what you get ready to cross over to. You don't really know what's getting ready to happen. You don't really know how God is getting ready to do this thing. We don't know. Like, we are really, really getting ready to cross over into some new territories. Good morning. Good morning. And so, today I wanted to spend a little time with you, and really, really encourage wives. I really, really want to encourage wives on today to walk forward for real this time. That's what I keep hearing God saying, like, it's time to walk forward for real now. It's time to really, really, really walk forward. Like, it's time to walk forward for real. I feel like the month of January, God really, really has slow walked us into this new 2023 year. But now he's saying it's time to cross over. Like, all right, I done gave you all month. To get yourself together. And I ain't just talking about y'all. I'm talking about me too. He's like, I done gave you all month. Now it's time. Come on, get yourself right. Stop playing. And God is really, really expecting us to proceed forward. He is really, really expecting us to proceed to that, to proceed on this journey. It's like, don't stop here at the gate. Don't just think, okay, this is where it is and that's it. It's like, God is saying, yeah, that's for you too. Come on, Jesus. Listen, God is saying we got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. And I always try to make sure that I'm hearing, before I come on here, in the morning time. That's why it'd be really hard, y'all, sometimes for me to get out of bed. Good morning. It'd be really hard sometimes for me to get out of bed because I be trying to make sure that I'm hearing good. Good morning. I'll be trying to really make sure that I'm getting the word, making sure that my spirit is right. I'm making sure that I'm in alignment. I don't ever want to come over here and just, do anything in my own strength. I'm always, good morning, trying to make sure that I am being in alignment as well. And so, what has really this week, all week, really, I have been hearing the Lord just really, really emphasizing the importance of, we crossing over to new territory. We crossing over into new things. Like, yes, it's unknown. Yes, the unknown can be scary, but guess what? I am with you. And because I am with you, we crossing over. We crossing over. We moving forward. All right. And so today, I really, really want to encourage you, but I also want to, help you if you have some oil close by, you have some anointing oil close by. I really want to encourage you this morning and really, really help wives to pray for the hearing. Like, really, really pray for your hearing in this hour. And so if you have some oil, I want you to get some oil so we can anoint your ears and really, really ask God to open up your spiritual ears so you can hear him. It is so important. And y'all know I ain't gonna ever come on here and not tell y'all not to hear from God. But I feel like if I have not been listening like I have been listening, if I have not been in tune like I have been in tune, if I have not been, walking with God like I have been walking with God, like that closely, because I'm one of those ones, like, God has had to deliver me from perfectionistness. I can't say the word, from being one of those kind of people over and over and over and over again. And it's not that I'm trying to be perfect, quote unquote. It's like, I don't want to mess this up. It's like, I don't want to mess this up. I done had too many times where we done did these, these things over and over again. Like, anybody got time for that? I'm getting older. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. I don't really want to keep on going around the same mountain over and over again. And so it's important, wives. It's important that your hearing is on point in this hour. It's important that your hearing is on point. And so I want to start praying by, really asking God to just open up your spiritual ears, as we get ready to start. Just a quick prayer with y'all. I'm going to actually anoint my ears here with y'all, as an example, just to show you. Put it all on your earlobe, child. Rub it all in, child. However, Lord, please help wives in this hour to hear you. I just pray that wives will hear you in this hour. Help them to anoint their ears, God. And I pray that you open up their their earlobes, every part of their ears, so they can hear you, God. May your spirit come down and touch the ears of the wives who are believing to hear from you on today, and let them know that you are still a talking God. Let them know that you are still a talking God, and that you have you give us the supernatural power to hear you in a different way. So, Father God, we bless you on this morning, God. I praise your holy and mighty name. I give you all the praises, glory, and honor as I welcome you now into this live. Lord, I pray, Lord, for the wives who will come on today and hear your word, that you will speak to them, God, mightily, God. I pray, God, that today they make a decision to do something different, something they have not done before. I pray that you bring forth confirmation, God, and revelation, God. I pray forth that wisdom and knowledge will abide, God, and understanding, God. Lord, cover us, God. Lord, open up our hearts, remove anything from us that has not been pleasing to you in this hour, in this season, God, and give us the courage, God, and the boldness like you did with Joshua to walk forward in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, I praise you. May there be no backlash. May your word go forward. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, amen. All right. So good morning again, and happy self-care Saturday. Happy self-care Saturday. My name is Coach T. My name is Coach T for the ones who may not know me, or for the ones who may not join me live usually on Saturdays. I try to introduce myself to the people, so just in case somebody come on here like who ain't never been on here before, like who is this country girl talking all geechified? Like, who is this, right? My name is Coach T. My name is Coach T, and I am a a Christian mental health wife coach. I help wives and coach wives who are separated from their husbands, whether they are separated from their husbands inside of their home, or whether they are separated from their husbands on the outside of the home, okay? Usually the wives that I coach, these wives are dealing with a marital injury that involves abandonment, addiction, adultery, mental and emotional abuse, all right? Mental and emotional abuse. And what I do, I have a curriculum called Her Abundance Boost. Her Abundance Boost is a self-care, soul-care curriculum that I help wives to prioritize their self-care. I help wives to prioritize their mental, their emotional, their physical, and their spiritual health, all right? And so if you are a wife who are dealing in those type of areas, welcome, all right? My areas of expertise is in behavioral health, faith, and marriage. All right. And so on that note, I told y'all on last week as well. I told y'all on last week that I accepted my position. Like all that noise I was talking about, no, I don't really do the group thing and no this and that. And they done got me. They done got me, y'all. So I finally just went ahead and accepted my, position at the church. To do the small group leading. And I've done it before. I definitely have done it before. But I kind of like pulled away from it, over the years, because that's a different type of ministry. All right. I'm not going to get into all that right now. But, so when I was, doing that, like I said, this has been a really, 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 exciting week, scary week, all different types of things came out. I messed around and came upon my little small booklet that I did for my wife. Y'all probably can't see that. Y'all probably recognize some of these people. Or they probably will recognize themselves on here. And I came across my book, baby. I had forgot what I had wrote in this thing, all right? And I actually have written a few of these. I've written a few of these, but I don't use it like that. You know, I was using it for the small group because I do meet with these ladies in person. This is not like something I do online. I do meet with these ladies in person. And so I came across this booklet and I messed around and read a portion in there about my testimony. And y'all know I come on here every week and I share some part of my story. I always share with y'all some transparency. How God spoke to me. But this one I found, the words that God spoke to me directly about my marriage. And when he told me, like the first time he told me that my husband was coming home and my marriage would be restored. And so I really want to share with y'all at the end, I'm going to read that portion in my book. I'm going to share with y'all, what God said to me directly in that time. All right. And so, as I always say, it is literally, it has been for me, for my story. Like I said, I know, a lot of coaches have their own, way of sharing. I know a lot of coaches have their own way of, sharing what has worked for them. But for me, for Coach T, one of the things I always emphasize and echo on my channel is you have to hear from God. You have to hear from God. And I really feel like that is what has sustained me on my journey. Okay. It was literally the voice of God that I held on to. It was the voice of God that got me through sleepless nights. It was the voice of God that got me through my pain. It was the voice of God that got me through my anger. It was the voice of God that got me through my financial hardship. It was the voice of God that I have been following and that I still follow even to this day. And so I always just emphasize why you have to be crystal clear about your assignment. You have to be crystal clear about what God is speaking to you. You have to be crystal clear about if this is something God is calling you to do, because I always say, I will always say this type of assignment is not for everyone. I will not encourage everyone to stand for an unhealthy marriage if they have not heard from God. I have spoken to numerous of wives, and of course they want their marriages reconciled. Of course they want their husbands to come back home. Of course, they want to work things out. But I am just that coach who always asks that question: did you hear from God? And what has God said to you? It does not mean that your marriage won't be reconciled, or it does not mean that your husband's not coming back home, or it does not mean that your marriage will not be restored. But you have to make sure that that is what God wants you to do in this hour. There is a time in a season you're dealing with whatever, depending on what type of circumstances you're dealing with, where you have to put your husband on pause. I've been sharing on my social media platforms lately, unfriend your husband for a season. Wives have to really unfriend their husbands for a season. All right. And so if you're not hearing from God, if you're not hearing, I had a session this week, and I spoke with a young lady, and one of the things, I expressed to her, what did God say to you? And, she just explained, well, God haven't said anything to me about my marriage. I haven't got a direct word. God told me to focus on me. And so it's like, that's your directive then. That's your instruction. God has told you to focus on you, then that's what you're supposed to do. If God has not said to you nothing about your husband, then right now your husband is not a priority. Your husband is not a concern right now. You put him on the shelf and you hear from God and let God continue to walk you through that journey. All right. So hearing from God is imperative. And that's just one of the things I emphasize to my wives, the ones I coach, the ones I work with. You got to hear from God. I'm that coach who's going to train you, who's going to help you, go through that, sit through that, so you can hear from God. All right. Let me read what you got here. You said, yes, it's hard. It really is hard to surrender, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in today's live. It really is hard to surrender. It really is hard to get to that place. All right. God's voice, wife, God's voice has to be louder than anyone else in your life. His voice has to ring louder. Good morning. His voice has to ring louder than anyone else in your life. If not, I am telling you right now today, if you're not hearing God's voice, and if his voice is not louder than anyone else's, you have to go deeper. You have to go deeper. And a lot of times, wives are doing this journey only, and we're going to talk about this in a moment as well, for the purpose of their husband's return. They're only doing this journey for their husbands to come back home. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna walk with, God, and I'm gonna do what he said, and I'm gonna see what, he got going on, because I really want my husband to come back home, or I really want my husband, to get his life together. I really want my marriage to be restored. And it's like, you gotta check your motives, all right? You gotta check your motives, all right? Why, Coach T? Why do we need to hear from God? Why is it so imperative for us to hear from God? Because you are heading towards new territories. You are heading towards new territories, and you are walking into an unknown season. This season, I tell you the truth, literally feels like, I don't know what's going to happen, Jesus. Good morning. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. It's almost like, it's different. You have seasons where it's a shift. You have seasons when something's going to get ready and change. You have seasons when like, okay, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But then you also have seasons when it's like, no, this is different. Like, no, this is different. Y'all know y'all comments and stuff coming. Y'all, I can't read all the stuff at one time. Let me see. Today is my husband's birthday. I'm at peace because I'm working on. Praise Jesus. Come on now. It is surrendering to just let your husband take our 4-year-old son on a cruise, or will God want me to stop him? Send me a message in the inbox. Send me an inbox message. If you have questions, put your questions in this message, or you can DM me your questions, because sometimes it's real hard for me to talk and look at y'all comments. So if you have a question directly, send a message to me through my inbox, or you can put your questions in here and I'll try to go through them for you at the end, because I ain't really good with this up down look stuff. Okay. So listen. It's imperative, wives. It's imperative that you are making sure that you are moving and you are hearing from God on, in going into this unknown season. Okay. The unknown can be scary. But do not fear. Do not fear. The next part of your journey is going to surprise you. It's going to surprise all of us, I think. I feel like it's going to surprise all of us, right? All right. For every new level, there is more to do. For every new level, there is more to do, more to be aware of, more that you need to know, more for you to be, you need to be aware of your surroundings. And you have to also understand, you need to understand your enemy. You need to understand your opponent. You need to understand what is working against you. You need to know how to conquer that thing. You need to know how to face it. You need to know how to deal with it. You need to know how to face, whatever it is, whatever your challenges is, whatever your difficulties is. You need to know how to face those things and be able to move forward. Okay. Don't let those things hinder you. Even when a hard season arrives, even when something hard comes up, don't let those things hinder you. All right. First Peter 5:8 reminds us, be sober minded, be watchful, because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Why? Do you not know that the enemy is studying your life? Do you not know that the enemy is watching you? Do you not know that he has little enemies, his little demon people surrounding you, surrounding your family, surrounding your destiny, surrounding your future? He has a plan for you as well. And this is why it's so imperative for wives to make sure that they are spending that time with God, that they are putting in that time with God, that they are hearing from God, because we have an enemy who hates us. Okay. We have an enemy who hates us. The cost of the promise is no joke. The cost of the promise is no joke. If God has given you a direct word, if God has said something to you specifically about your marriage, if God has specifically told you that your husband will come home, if God has specifically said your marriage will be restored, if God has specifically said, I'm going to deliver him, or I'm going to save him, if God has specifically given you that type of word, wife, you have to understand the enemy is watching you. Okay. He is watching you. If you think you're supposed to be doing this journey, but you're not really sure, you have visions, or you read a scripture here, or you've seen something here, but it has not really been, validated or verified. If you think, you have to understand the enemy is watching you. Okay. He don't even want you to start thinking like, I got a chance. He don't even want you to start thinking that this could possibly work. He don't even want you to start thinking that, oh, my husband possibly can be a better husband, a better father. He don't even want you to start thinking like those things. So If you think that the Lord is saying, oh, I'm going to restore, I'm going to do, listen, you have an enemy, wife. You have an enemy, and he is watching you, and he is watching you up close. It takes strategy. It takes strategy, and it takes patience, and it takes time, and it takes work. It takes work on this journey, all right? But most of all, it takes God's divine intervention and guidance. Wives, you will not be able to do this without God. There's no shortcuts. There's no secret formula. There's no special spice. Ain't none of those types of things. You will not be able to do this without God, okay? You do not walk into a new territory without the help of the Lord. Period. All right? Period. So what do you need? What do you need for your new territory? What do you need for this unknown season? What do you need, moving forward? What do you need now that we here at this end of this month, the end of January of 2023, getting ready to cross over into a new month? What is it that you need? And what is it that you need? Number one, you need discernment. You need discernment. Not intuition alone. You need discernment. And if you don't have discernment, or you think that you have, but you're not really sure, you ask God, Lord, turn my discernment up on high. Turn my discernment up on 1,000. Turn my discernment up, because I don't want to miss you. All right. So you need discernment. You need discernment. Number two, you need divine instructions. You need divine instructions. You cannot do this journey. Good morning. You cannot do this journey without God's divine instructions. So number one, you need discernment. Number two, you need God's divine instructions. It is God's plan. It is God's way. In order for this restoration thing to work, you have to dive in deep with God. You have to go in deep with God. You have to make sure that you are hearing from Him. Anything else is just a waste of time. Anything else, you're just doing it in vain. If you're just trying to do it, and especially if you are copying the ways of the world, especially if you are looking at the things on TV, especially if you are in the shade room, if you are on, watching Hollywood, especially if you're looking at anything else other than God, I'm telling you right now today, you're doing it wrong, and it ain't gonna work. I'm telling you now today, you're doing it wrong, and it ain't going to work. All right. So you need divine instructions. You need divine instructions. And number three, you need to be able to decipher your heart motives. You need to be able to decipher your heart motives. This is what gets wives in trouble right here. This part right here is what gets wives in trouble, because one of the things wives have a problem with, and I'm guilty. I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that. One of the things that get wives in trouble is their control. And their need to control, and their need to, have things a certain kind of way. But wives, you got to get rid of the control in this hour. Okay. You are not going to be able to manipulate, control, push, force anything to happen on this journey without the hands of God. You ain't gonna be able to do it. All right. And so you have to get rid of your control. Your heart motive plays a huge role. A lot of wives try to figure out, like, why am I in the same place year after year after year, month after month after month, day after day after day? Why I'm reading my Bible, and I'm going to church, and I'm fasting, and I'm reading the scriptures, and I'm in my prayer closet, and I'm being obedient, and I'm doing what God has asked me to. Why then is nothing working? Why then is nothing changing? I think I shared this with you guys on last week or the week before. God is always testing the heart. God is always testing the heart. Your heart is going to be tested. And if you look around and you kind of see that you're in the same place and you're not moving forward, or you look around and you see that you're still doing the same thing that you was doing 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, a year ago, you might want to check your heart motive. You might want to flesh that out. You might want to get your heart gauge intact. You might want to make sure everything is good in that area, because sometimes you can have the right intent but the wrong heart motive. All right. And so wives have to make sure that they are deciphering that heart. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes I made was not being able to discern that I had been deceived. Oh my God. Deceive? Who deceive? I teach the church. I teach in the church. I work in the church. I study the Bible. No, deceived. No, he's deceived. I'm not deceived. Baby. The Lord told me I was deceived. You have been deceived. All right. You have been deceived. And I was deceived because I ignored God's divine instructions for several years. I shared with y'all plenty of times that God called me long way before my husband even left the house, long way before things got messy with us, long way before my husband even went down this road. The Lord called me. I was in my bed. I was in my bed, and I think it hadn't even got like fully, daylight yet, probably like early morning. And I heard the Lord tell me, he said, you would be like a Deborah. You would be like a Deborah. And I was like a Deborah? Now, mind you, I'm in the church. I know who Deborah is. I know Deborah's story. I heard her story plenty of times. I know what Deborah did. And you think, well, okay, Deborah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that, no. But I know Deborah was considered a prophetess. And I know how they be coming for them prophetess. So, God, I don't really want to be up underneath that title. Like, I don't really want to deal with that. I don't really want to deal with that. And so when he told me that, I turned over and said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do that, God. Choose somebody else. I don't want to do that. Choose somebody else. I don't really want to do that. All right. And so when God spoke to me, I ignored his instructions. I ignored his call. I did not take the call when God first called me. It wasn't until many years later when I was working in the medical field, and one of the young men came in the office and said, hey, prophetess. I said, prophetess? You call who told you that? What you mean? What you mean, prophetess? He's like, hey, prophetess. And it was almost then at that moment that I knew it was like, you've been trying to run from this, and you've been trying to get away from this, and God has been calling you with this for a very, very long time. All right. And so I didn't pay attention to God's instructions. I did not pay attention to his instructions. And then my heart motive was definitely not in the right place. It was, listen, if I could make that man do what I wanted him to do, everything was good. We was good, because that's what I had did already before we had got married. I was able to do certain things and say certain things, and I know he'll roll with it. I was able to, do certain things or give him a certain look, and I know he'll roll with it. And it was like, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it moving forward, right? That's not going to cut it. And a lot of times, and I remember at one point, and the Lord broke me down. I only wanted God. I only, because on this journey, even as God talks to you and he gives you a word and he gives you a promise, there will come times when you will deal with doubt. Like I talked about last week. There will come a time when you would deal with, frustrations. There will come a time when you're like, did I really hear from God? Did God really say what he said to me? Is God really speaking to me? And so I had moments like that. And so at one point I was like, God, I just want you to do it because of this reason. Or I want you to do it just because of this reason. And like, God was like, I can't use you like that. I can't use you like that. You got to get past that. Cause it has to be bigger than what you want. It has to be bigger than that. It has to be bigger than me wanting to restore your marriage just for this reason. It has to be bigger for me to want to restore your marriage just for that reason. And so my heart motive was not right. My heart motive was not right. And please understand why. Please understand the things that don't move until certain things do not move until you have learned or passed that test. Certain things do not move until you have passed that test. Certain things do not happen and you are not able to move forward until you pass that test. A lot of wives are trying to figure out why they're in the same position. I always ask wives, and I'm going to go to this Bible verse, Hebrews 4:16. I always tell wives, go to God. Be bold and go to God. Ask God questions. A lot of people think that you are not supposed to ask God questions. No. Hebrews 4:16 says, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, with full confidence. I say full confidence, but it says, let us approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. God wants you to come with us. God wants you to come to him. God wants you to ask him questions. Wife, you need God's help. So he's saying, come to me in confidence. Come to me knowing that I am the only one who can help you. And this is why I encourage wives to consult with the Lord. Consult with the Lord. Ask the Lord questions. Spend that time with him so you don't miss anything he's trying to share with you or trying to get to you. All right. Especially when life is happening. Life happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. And for many years. And I'm one of those coaches, like, I'm always like just reflecting on where God has brought me, where, what God has done in my life. I'm reflecting over my jobs. I'm reflecting over, things that he's done in my family. I'm reflecting over the things that he's done with my children. I'm always that one that's reflecting. And when I look back over that stuff, I'm just like, wow, you just have no idea. You have no idea that, you know, that first step of doing that thing is going to lead you to that thing, or that step going to lead you to that thing, or doing that is going to lead you to doing that, or, you know, you trying this is going to lead you to that place. And it's like, it has literally been those types of strategic steps that God has really orchestrated for me to be able to move forward on this journey. You need God. Ask him questions. A lot of wives don't want to ask God the hard questions. I told a wife recently, like, ask God, is my husband coming back home? Like, look, is he coming home or is he not? Just let me know, God. If he's coming home, okay, what then do I need to do? Ask God those questions. God will prefer you come to him and be honest, because he already know anyways. He already know anyways. And a lot of times wives are holding up their journey because they're trying to act like they hiding something from God. God sees your heart. He already know. He already know what you're thinking. He already know your thoughts. He already know what you got going on in your mind. He already know your hurts. He already know your fears. He already know your shame. He already know your guilt. He already know you not worthy. That's why he sent his son Jesus here. Okay. He already know these things. So the best thing for a wife to do is to be honest. Ask God the hard questions. Lord, is my husband coming home? Not, Lord, is my husband going to be over there with that woman? Not, Lord, is my husband and that woman going to have a baby together? Not, Lord, are you going to just let my husband just do this to me? No, you need to be focusing on yourself, wife, during this time. You need to be focusing on yourself. I always tell wives, before I go to this, I got to say this. Baby, okay? So many wives think that they are ready for their husbands to come home. And I got to put my arm sleeves up on this one. So many wives think that they are ready for their husbands to come home. Let me tell you something. You are not. You are not ready for your husband to come home and for y'all to be doing husband and wife life again if you ain't got your stuff together. You're not ready for that man to come home because you don't know if that man's going to come home fully delivered. You don't know if that man's going. You don't know what that man is coming home with. You don't know what that man is carrying. You don't know the stuff that man has been dealing with and the things that he has picked up on that outside. And then the Lord send your husband home and you're not ready. You're not ready for that. You're not ready to be in a house with a man and he's in another room talking to another woman. You're not ready to be in a house with a man who's doing drugs and he has not fully recovered from his stuff, or who is struggling with his addiction. You're not ready for a man who talking to you in all kinds of ways and, you know, doing all kinds of y'all not ready for that. y'all not ready for that. If you still worrying about who he talking to, who he doing it with, who he this, who he that with, if you still on that level, you're not ready for that man to come home. The only way you're going to be ready for that man to come home is if you surrender your life, your will, your way, your emotions over to God. Because God has said, I am not going to bring this broken man back into the house with you and he's all fragile and you make him worse. Because the things that he's going to be throwing at you and the things that you're going to see and the things that you're going to encounter, you ain't ready for that man to come back home and you got kids there and he ain't talking to your kids and your kids trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Y'all not ready for that. Like, y'all, I be talking to so many wives like, and I be listening to this like, no, you're not ready for that. Like your child trying to figure out why daddy not speaking to me or why daddy come in the house and go and close the door and lock up in. People, y'all not ready for that. Y'all not ready to explain to your child why, you know, daddy is passed out on the floor like this, or why daddy didn't come home last night. You're not ready for it. With the ones who have younger children and you dealing with that kind of hardship, how you tell a child something like that? How you explain to your child about that their father passed out? How you explain to a child that their father didn't come home last night? How you explain to a child that their father got a girlfriend? Who does that? Y'all not ready for that. Yeah. So when I hear stuff like that, I always wonder, what is the position of that wife's heart? Where is that wife on her journey? A lot of wives think because if my husband comes home, then at least I can see him, or at least I can watch him. And it's like, you won't be able to keep up with that man's stuff. Your anxiety was going to be on 1,000 trying to keep up with that man's stuff and his mess and the things that he got going on. Your anxiety will be all over the place. You won't be able to sleep. You won't be able to eat. You won't be able to think. And then you have to still operate as a mother. And you have to still go to work. And then you have to still continue to maintain a household. Y'all not ready for this person to say, okay, I'm not going to pay no bills and I ain't going to do this, but I'm going to spend my money out on the street with the other woman. Y'all not ready for that kind of stuff. If you have not given your life, surrender your life completely completely over to God so he can walk with you on this, so he can help you. Because those types of things will send somebody to jail, okay? Those types of things will send somebody down the wrong path. Those types of things will tear a house down. You let that man come in that house and you not ready and he's all messed up and stuff, will destroy that house or will destroy your marriage. It would be worse. It would be worse because a lot of times they come back worse. It would be worse than what it was before he had left. So I said that to say, are you sure? Like, are you really, really sure? When I hear some of their wives' stories and what they're telling me that their husbands got going on, and I'm saying, you don't want that, ma'am, in your house. You don't want to deal with that kind of spirit. You don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. You don't want to bring that kind of stuff around your young children. You don't want to do that kind. You don't want your children to have to experience their father in that way. You don't want your children to have to see some of the things that their father is doing. You don't want that kind of stuff to hear. You don't want your child to see you in that place. You don't want your child to see you all broken down and tore down and all messed up and miserable and crying and crying on the and hiding in the closet because you crying and you can't figure out. You don't want your child to ask you, Mama, are we gonna have enough money to pay this bill, or is this gonna get turned? Y'all not ready for that. Y'all not ready for that. That's some real stuff, okay? And so I say that to say, wife, you're getting ready to go over into new territory, all right? You're getting ready to cross over into new territory, okay? And new territory is not something that is given. It's not something that is given. It's earned. It's earned. Good morning, all right? It's not something that is given. It is not something that is given. And through the things that you have already faced and encountered, God is entrusting you with more, all right? God is entrusting you with more. New territory is something like a promotion, all right? It's something like a promotion, but like I once heard a pastor say, I heard a pastor say this recently, he said, promotion is the precursor for warfare. Everybody want promotion. Everybody want better. Everybody want to go to the top. Everybody want this. Everybody want that. But you have to understand, promotion is the precursor for warfare. And let's just face it, warfare is going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life as long as you are serving God. You're going to deal with warfare. Warfare is going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life as long as you're serving God, as long as you're doing things that God has called you to do, as long as God is leading you and guiding you and directing your life, and he's giving you divine instructions, and he's telling you the story, and he's giving you the secrets to the enemy's camp, and he's giving you that stuff. You're going to deal with warfare. The enemy is big mad that you can hear from God. The enemy is big mad that God is talking to you like that. All right. So warfare is part of your life. It's part of your life process. All right. However, when warfare comes, that's when your worship increase. All right. That's when your quiet time need to be on 1,000. And that's when spending that time with God is a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable. All right. And then new territory is also part of the process. It's also part of the process. This is the place where God begins to separate the wheat from the chaff. All right. This is when he separates the wheat from the chaff. All right. And so on that note, like I shared with you earlier, I want to go to my little booklet here. And don't try to laugh at my picture because I was real messed up back then, okay? This is the picture, child, that I had in that booklet. That was the day that I thought I was gonna lose my life. Like hands down, for real. That was the day that I thought I was going to get. I was gonna be done. All right, it was gonna be over for me. All right. If you ever wanted to know where Marriage Chronicles come from, it started from here. All right. This is where it started from. This is where I got the name Marriage Chronicles, because this is what I was, this is what was going on. It started from this booklet. And for the ladies who have, participated in my curriculum, her Bonnie Booze, I share 13 steps with them to do their work. I share 13 prayers for them to pray for their marriage. And on her final week, I share the importance of the number 13. It all started from this book right here. This is where it came from. It's part of my testimony. All right. And so I'm going to just read to y'all this part of what I wrote. And listen, it was serious because I literally felt like that day my life was over. So I started off by saying, I celebrate the number 13 for two reasons. First, because it's the number God promised me for full restoration for my family. God always told me that my marriage would be, At that time, I didn't know that. But later on, he revealed to me that my marriage would be restored in the 13th year. And so, but at that time, he just said that your marriage, that you would have full restoration for your family year 13. All right? But it wasn't year 13. That's a different story for another time. So, second, because on June 13, 2015, I literally thought I was going to die. I thought my sons were going to come in and see their mother on the sofa dead. Hands down, that's real talk, y'all. That's real talk. No joke. I was in my den on the sofa where my husband used to sleep most of the time. Good morning. My husband, when he was home during that time, he would sleep on the sofa downstairs. And so I felt closest to him. And so that's where I was at. So I was on that sofa and I was stiffed and I was paralyzed and I was at a loss of words. I had no strength. I had no fight. I was helpless and full of rage. I was helpless. I was mad. I had all different types of emotions going on. It was dark and quiet in the room, but I'm sure the entire neighborhood heard my thoughts because my mind was raging with different types of things and all kinds of stuff was running through my mind. I cried harder than I had ever cried in my life. I literally felt like my insides was coming out. The pain I endured was excruciating. It's like I can't even explain the pain that I was dealing with. And I felt like something was trying to but it wasn't coming out. It was like, it was horrible. It was horrible. All right. So I literally felt like something was trying to come out of me. I felt like, I cried more than I have ever cried in my life. The pain I endured was excruciating, not physically, but emotionally pain. All right. I remember finally trying to roll off the sofa and I couldn't feel my legs because I had been down there that long and I had been so stiff in that one place. And so I just remember saying, Lord, help me. Okay. I was broken. During this time, I was scrolling through my phone trying to find a Bible verse. All right. I was scrolling through my phone trying to find a Bible verse to read because it was like something was on me and I couldn't get it off. I was having shortness of breath. My heart was palpitating and it felt like I was having a breakdown, but I wasn't. I was having a breakthrough. I had came to the end of Tanika. God had just introduced me to myself. I was a hot mess. I was a wreck, okay? He showed me my faults. He showed me where I was causing conflict in my marriage, and he showed me my wrongs, okay? He showed me the destruction I had caused in my marriage with my mouth and my sarcasm. He showed me my unwillingness to understand. He showed me my unwillingness to yield. He showed me how I had unforgiveness in my heart towards my husband. He showed me my behavior. He showed me my ugly ways. He showed me my attitude. He showed me my arrogance. He showed me my anger. He showed me my religious and prideful spirit. He showed me my stubbornness. He showed me my unkind spirit. I had this kind of like, I'm a Christian and you ain't act like a Christian type of person. He showed me my disrespect. He showed me my manipulation and my judgment that I had towards my husband. I was very, very judgmental towards him because I did not understand what I was dealing with. I didn't understand why this man who I loved and this man who we've been, through all this. And it's like, why are you acting like this? Like, stop acting like this. So I became very judgmental towards him. All right. By this time, my husband and I had been married for 10 years. And as I lay on the sofa looking in the dark, in the air, and tears running down my face, God spoke to me. And this is what he said. He said, I'm not going to let that woman take your husband. This was God's direct words to me. He said, I am not going to let that woman take your husband. She's not even his type. And I remember writing in parentheses saying, it's amazing how God can have a sense of humor even in the midst of your storm. And he then said, he's coming back home to you. Mind you, the reason and how I had got to that place on that floor, in that dark room, in that dark place is I had just left from my husband's apartment. And it was at that moment where I found out that he had a woman staying with him. And so I remember going there, me and my kids, we went there and I'm on the door and the woman came to the door and she said, who is it? And I'm like, I thought we were just taking a break, but you got somebody up in here? And so when she said, who is it? I said, Tanika. Because I want to see this mama jamma. I want her to come. I want to see her face, but the Lord did not let it be so. And so, sure enough, he ended up coming to the door. And the look he had on his face and the way he was looking and you know, I've been married to him. He's my husband. And so I knew what was going on or what had just happened. And he had this like real relaxed at ease look. And I was like, y'all go to the car. Because I had the kids with me. And I remember telling the kids, y'all go to the car. Because I'm going to deal with this right here. I tried so hard to get into that door. But it was, and I think I shared with y'all before, I had a dream prior. I had a dream prior to going to my husband's place. And I did not understand it. And in this dream, this lady, she was like a TV, but she was a lady. And she was walking down the aisle in the church. She was walking down the aisle in the church. And I'm jumping all over it. I'm just trying to tell you how I got to this place. And on her, she was black and white, and she was like a TV. And it was like, you know, she was like cutting on and off. She's like, nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me. And on her, over her whole body, she had the fruits of the spirit. So she had self-control. She had patience. She had all the different fruits of the spirit. And she, you know, had this long black dress, and you can see the fruits of the spirit like all over her. And so she walked up to the, you know, down the aisle. This is in my dream. And she sat on the first pew in the, you know, in the church. I used to sit in the front, y'all, of the church. Don't judge me, okay? I used to sit in the front of the church. Like, I was like all the way into the church. Like, I know, you know? And so, she was telling me, she's like, nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me. And I was like, what? It didn't kick in until that moment when I was in front of my husband and I had seen, like, I knew him, that woman had done just did something and they was probably waiting on food. They thought I was a pizza person or something. I was pissed. I was pissed because I knew what had just happened and I didn't have no control over it. And so he took the things or whatever from me. He went back in the house and I knocked on the door again. And so he came back to the house and I put my foot like, you know, to the door. Like I was finna go in there. And he was like, look, you need to leave. If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police or whatever. And so I stepped back because the thing I thought about, this is the positive about having kids and having young kids. I thought about my children in the car. I said, Tanika, go ahead and just go. Just go ahead and go. But I wanted to get in that house, baby. If I could have had my way, I would have pushed that door down. Doggone door down, okay? Because I knew what was taking place in there and I wanted to see the woman. I wanted to see her. And so that's how I had got to this place. That had just took place. And so it was a long ride home. It was a long ride. My husband wasn't that far from us. He was less than 30 minutes from us. But it was a long ride home. And I remember just feeling like, what in the world just happened, okay? And so after the Lord told me, he said, I'm not going to let that woman take your husband. She's not even his type. He's coming back home to you. After that, God daily reminded me that my family will be fully restored and my husband will return. You're not thinking like that when that stuff is happening. You're not thinking like that when that moment is going on, okay? And so God spoke to me that night again, later on, because I had been in this place like all night. Like I don't think I even slept. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for like 3 days. And so that's how I was, okay? That's how I was. So that night, again, my daughter, the Lord spoke to me again. He said, my daughter, you have been deceived all these years. You have been deceived all these years. The enemy is not after your husband. The enemy is after you. That was God's direct words to me. He said, the enemy is not after your husband. The enemy is after you. Okay? And so that's why I always say no one can ever tell me that God isn't real. No one can tell me that God don't talk. No one can tell me that God is not faithful. No one can tell me that God doesn't exist. No one can tell me that he's just some universe person, you know, God in the sky. God is real and he is faithful. I heard God. And I just heard a pastor talk about that, you know, God don't necessarily talk to us, you know, in our good moments, you know, when everything is happy and you don't really hear God like that. But it's when we are in that broken place, when we are in that low place, when we are in that, you know, down place where God speaks, like you can hear. And so it's like, wife, while you are in this low place, this is the time to really, really hear from God, because when life happens, and I always share with my wives, you know, after a while, his voice will start getting quieter, and it'll be harder to hear him, you know, and that's when you have to really go into that secret place. That's when you really do have to go in that closet. That's when you really have to turn off the world, because it does get harder to hear him. But when you in that place, when you in that low place, when you in that broken place, baby, God speaks, okay? He speaks to you. And so that's why when I hear people talk about, you know, oh, people, God don't talk, this and that. Listen, you don't know my God then. We must be talking about the same God, because my God speaks, okay? My God speaks. And so when God spoke to me that night, my spirit, I felt like my spirit was reunited. It was like a revelation had kicked in. It's like my eyes was like, ah! And it was like God just like sprinkled like water all over me and was like just refreshing my spirit. When Psalms 23 said, you know, that he will refresh your spirit, that's where that comes from. Like that's what he did for me. And it was almost like after that moment, God was just pouring this revelation. He was just saying all kinds of stuff. He was just bringing all types of things back to my memory. He was just showing me all kinds of ways I was being ugly and how I had a lot to do with, you know, him being this way and how I had pushed this man to this point. Not saying that his stuff was innocent, that saying that he didn't have his wrongs and his flaws, but he just showed me my part. And that's why I'm so big on wives making sure that you are doing your part. You don't have no control about him. You don't have no control about what he's doing. You have to make sure that you are making sure that you're doing what God has told you to do. And so God showed me how ugly I was. He showed me how I had an attitude. He showed me how when my husband would say something to me, how I would be snappy and, you know, how I would be, you know, all ugly towards him. And he showed me how, you know, I had bitterness in my heart and unforgiveness. He showed me my ugly. You know, he really showed me my ugly. And so I felt like after that happened, he reunited me back to him. And I was finally able to go to sleep and rest. Like I said, it was 3 days, y'all. And it was the best sleep I had since my husband left. Now, because I was a daddy's girl, I want to just share this last part of this part. I was a daddy's girl. My daddy was my coach before he passed away. And so my daddy, and this is how I knew at that, it was almost like God was confirming to me, like, it's all right now. You're going to be okay now. My daddy visited me in a dream. Okay. And I don't want to get emotional with that part because, my daddy had visited me. And I don't really see my daddy that much. You know, I don't really see my daddy, you know, in dreams and stuff. And this whole situation, like just with my husband and my daddy they had a lot in common. They had a lot in common. And so, I remember being in the hospital with my daddy. He was up here at my place. And I remember being in the hospital and everybody was out of the room. Everybody was, you know, out of the room, you know, the same hospital my husband was in. And that's why this story is so, you know, it's just very emotional for me. And so my daddy was here. He was, you know, he was fine. Everything was good with him. And so when he finally was in the hospital and we was quiet and I was sitting there watching, just looking at him. And it was like, Daddy, say something. Like I wanted him to speak. My daddy he had a stroke. And so I was like, Daddy, say something, you know, please say something to me while I'm here. Please say something to me while I'm here. Because nobody was there. It was just me and my dad. And I remember saying, we was not ready. We didn't know God like that. We wasn't in close relationship with God. Our relationship was not that deep with God. And I always felt like because we was not ready, we was not able to save our dad. We wasn't able to pray that prayer. And I know that's not what it is, but that's what I was feeling. You know, I felt like if I was in a deeper relationship with God, or if I was, you know, in a better place with God, or if I, you know, I knew certain scriptures, or, you know, I knew how to pray. I did not know those things. I did not know those things at that time. And so, it was very, very hard for me to watch my dad pass away. And so, like I said, being in that same hospital that my dad was in, and he actually did pass. That's why when my husband was there, it was like, no, I felt like after my dad passed, I went after God in a different way. You know, yes, I was dealing with the stuff with my marriage, but my dad was my coach. I was his, you know, my dad was, you know, he was a deacon in the church. You know, I was his secretary. I would do all those types of things. And I know I'm getting away from my point, but, it was my dad that I was there watching, and I wanted him to say something to me. And so, when I had this vision of him in this dream, this is why I knew that it was okay. I feel like that was, you know, God let me know that it was okay. And so my dad, he was in all white, and he was wearing a white shirt and shorts, looking like his normal cool self. Like we Florida people, so, you know, we like the water. He was on a boat. And so he was looking like you were real nice or whatever on a white boat, and he would smile. My dad always smiled. My dad, he had like golds and open faces in his mouth. And so he would always be smiling. And so, he was like, on the boat or whatever, and he was smiling and he was doing some work. And so he was the only person on the boat. Okay. He was like the only person on the boat. And so, I remember like in a dream feeling like the wind was blowing a little bit, just a breeze, and the water was nice and blue. And my dad, he was like looking at me like, shaking his head like, you all right? Kind of like how he would do when, I had a bad moment, or when, something was, going, wrong, or, how he would just like reaffirm me that, I was okay. And so he was just looking at me like, you all right, you all right now, you all right. And so he was like, you got it. You made it on through. And it was almost like he was saying, you finally understand now. You finally understand, what it is, or, how you got to this place. And so he told me that I would be all right now, moving forward. And then that's when I woke up. And so again, I didn't even know I was going to go there, man. I said it to say, my dad was kind of like confirming to me what God had said. It was almost like God was like, if you don't feel like this is real, if you don't feel like, good morning, if you don't feel like, let me place your dad in your spirit so you would know, because it was my dad who, before he died, I would go to him like, how I would go to God. I would go to my dad for scriptures, and I would go to my dad for prayer, and I would go to my dad for, confirmation. I would go to my dad to give me a word. I would go to my dad. And so when my dad came to me in that dream, after all that stuff I had been dealing with, it was, and my dad and my husband was really, really close. My husband had a really hard time after my dad, passed away. And so it was almost like God was like, God used my dad as a confirmation for me to let me know that, what I'm saying to you is true. Your husband is coming back home. I'm not going to let a woman have your husband. It's going to all work itself out. Okay. It's going to all work itself out. And so listen, after that moment, let me wrap this up because I gotta go. After that moment, I was never the same, y'all. I was never the same. I had encountered God on a level that I had never experienced for many, many years. I heard God calling me into the kingdom, and it's like, he had called me before, but it was like my ears was open. Going back to how I started off this live with us anointing our ears, my ears was open. My ears was really, really open at that time. And I was totally against it at first, but I felt God kept he kept feeling like, because I kept feeling like I could change my husband. I kept on feeling like I can do it. And God would ask me on numerous occasions. He would He would say, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Like that. And so, to this day, I can't tell you why I kept telling God no. I don't even know why I was telling him no. I was like, God, I got it. Not God, I'm all right. I don't know why I kept on telling God no. And God would always ask me, anytime me and my husband would have a disagreement, anytime things would go lovey, God would ask me, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for me to help you? Are you ready? Are you ready for me to help you? And so I don't know why I was telling God no. Okay. I don't know why I was doing that. I was trying to be God over my life. I was trying to do it in my own way. I was trying to, and I did not want to surrender. And so that moment really pushed me into a new territory. And so when I mentioned earlier about new territory is not earned, it's not given, it's earned. Well, there are certain times that new territories are where you are pushed into a new territory. And it's like God is trying to get your attention, and God is trying to get you before you get to that place. He's trying to help you. He's trying to work with you. He's trying to work it out. But sometimes you're being disobedient, or you're ignoring his instructions, or, you got your own motive or your own way. So you're not listening. You're not hearing clear. And so there are times, because I always say we on God's time and not our time, and we on God's timing. And when God is ready to do something, he's going to do it, whether we ready for it or not, And so I felt like at that moment I was pushed into a new territory, okay? And that is something that I didn't want. I wasn't ready for. And God, he had to use my marriage injury. He had to use my marriage injury to get me to that place. He used my marriage injury to get my attention. Why I say this, and I'm going to close. If God has a purpose for your life, if God has a plan for your life, if God has something that he's trying to do in your life and he wants to use you, hell or high water is not going to stand against it. Hell or high water would not stop God from getting to what it is that he's trying to get through your life. God told me way before me and my marriage went left that you was going to be like a Deborah. God had called me to the kingdom way long before me and my husband had these problems. And I ignored it. I ignored it. And so I said that to say, wife, you are at the door. You are at the door of crossing over into your new, for real this time. Like, for real. Like, we really, really crossing over this time, all right? And God is telling you to go, 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 all right? It's easier for him to walk in with you versus you being pushed in it, all right? It's easier for him to walk in with you versus you being pushed. When God is good and ready for things to begin moving in your life, he sometimes allows the things that we love the most to fraction us and break us down. For me, that was my marriage. For me, that was my marital covenant. God used my marriage to break me down. God used my marriage to get his attention, for me to get his attention. God used my marriage, my marriage pain and the things I went through in my marriage to build me up, to train me, to strengthen me, to equip me for what he was calling me for the kingdom. And so I said it to say, wives, you have to make a decision. It is time, wife, for you to do your work. We are crossing over into new territories. We are crossing over into the unknown, and you have to be ready. You have to be ready. And so I invite you to do your work. Do your work now. Do your work now while you have an opportunity. Do your work now while God is saying, hey, I'm here. Come on, get this. Come get this meat. Come get this bread. Come get this right while you have an opportunity to get it. Because when you cross over into new territories and you are in unknown lanes and you don't really know what's going on, you need to be able to connect with a living God. You need to be able to connect with the true and living God. You need to be able to tap in and hear from him. You need to be able to know what your instructions are and how you're going to move forward on this journey. You need to know that, all right? You need to be fully prepared for your new territory, wife. And so I said that to say, I encourage you, wife. I encourage you, if you are on this journey and you are still struggling, you're still trying to figure this thing out, and you still have questions and you still don't really know, sign up for your wife consultation. Sign up for your wife consultation. The wife consultation is just the first steps. It's just the first steps. It's not obligating you to anything. It's not making you, obligate you for anything. However, it is the first steps for you to start doing your work. If you have questions, for you to connect with somebody like you, for you to connect with a wife who understands your story, who understands your journey, who understands your pain, who understand what you're going through, you need to connect with someone like that. You need to connect with someone like that. So I encourage you to sign up for your consultation. You can sign up at www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. All right. That's www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. Sign for your wife consultation. Start doing your work. February is literally around the corner. It is literally around the corner. And I want to encourage you, wife, to do your work. Okay. So listen, I got 3 minutes, Jesus. Huh? You don't push your child out, listen to this message? Come on, Jesus. Listen. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I came on earlier and everybody showed up. I come on later and people don't show up. Thank y'all for joining me on today. Thank y'all for y'all support so much. I hope that this content is really blessing you and helping you and really making a difference and changing your life and helping you to make decisions. And so as always, I want to encourage y'all, listen. Do something that you enjoy doing today, all right? Make sure that you are prioritizing yourself, wife. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Make sure that you do something that you like to do, not that somebody else wants you to do, not what somebody else wants you to do. Do something that you enjoy doing, all right? Do something that you enjoy doing and invest in yourself. Invest into your spiritual your spiritual health. Invest into your emotional health. Invest into your mental health. Invest into those things, wife. It's important, all right? And so I want to encourage you, always sign up with someone who understands your story. You can sign up at my website, all right? You guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday, all right? Happy Self-Care Saturday, wives. Blessings.